In this video, I'm going to show you 3 simple techniques to create a nice raining atmosphere. I will be using one of my recent designs as a reference, but nonetheless, the purpose of this video is less about the design and more about the techniques in creating the raining atmosphere. So the first technique is creating the rain. The first thing you want to do is create a black solid color fill from the adjustment layer tab. Once you do that, you make sure to convert it to a smart object so you're able to edit the layer. Then you click on the filter tab and select noise, then select add noise. The noise basically serves as the raindrops for this purpose. The next thing you want to do is select the amount percent. For this occasion, it's just going to be how much rain you want to add into the scene, so that'll vary on your preference. Then you want to make sure you select Gaussian for the distribution and check the box for monochromatic. Then just hit the OK button. Once you do that, you just want to go to the blend mode and set it to screen so you can see the composition and see how the raindrops look so far. Now you want to put the rain in motion, so click the filter tab, select blur, then select motion blur. Here you have the angle and the distance settings. The angle is for setting up the direction of the rain, and the distance is basically the perspective distance and speed of the rain. So for example, if the rain is in the distant background, it would be set to a low pixel distance where the raindrops have less motion because they are farther away and take longer to cross our line of vision. If the rain is closer in the foreground, it would be set to a high pixel distance because the motion of the rain would appear faster as it is closer to us. Typically, you would want to at least have 2 rain layers created, one for the background and one for the foreground. That way, it'll help add more depth perspective to the composition as well as add to its realism of it. If you wanted, you could also add a 3rd rain layer for the midground. Once you have the settings to your liking, just hit OK. Now, to get rid of the white noise and make the raindrops more visible, create a levels adjustment layer and clip it to the rain layer. Then you want to move the black point slider towards the right side to reduce the white noise. And you could also move the white point slider towards the left a bit to make the rain more visible. Again, all based on preference. Then select the levels layer and the color fill layer and group them together or merge them. And then all you have to do is set it back to screen mode to make the rain visible. Now make sure the layer is where you want it to be, whether it's in the foreground or background. Then add a layer mask and start removing the rain in some areas with a soft brush to make the rain seem more scattered. Once you do that, just repeat that whole process again 1 or 2 more times, whether you want to have 3 different rain layers or just 2 different rain layers, and then just move them accordingly, foreground, midground, and the background. Technique number 2, creating a wet surface. First, make sure the layer you want to edit is a smart object, then go and click on the filter gallery tab and select the plastic wrap option under the artistic tab. As you can see, this filter helps create a wet looking surface for your object. You can play with the settings based on your own preference. Once you have everything to your liking, just hit the OK button. That will create a smart filter layer. I suggest inverting the layer and then using a soft brush to paint in the areas you want to have a wet looking surface. For my edit, I basically painted over all the areas, but I really emphasized the areas that were directly being affected by the rain. Now, you might have to do this technique a few times depending on how many objects you have that are affected by the rain, but once you have all that done, you just move on to the next technique, technique number 3, adding water droplets. So one way you could do this is by finding an image of a water droplet with a black background and just setting it to screen mode and then placing it wherever you want. But that is just too tedious, so I'm going to show you a more efficient method that will save you tons of time by turning that image into a brush stroke. Alright, so here we are. I'm going to show an example of how to create your own brushstroke. So the first thing you want to do is just make sure you have a completely new tab open just to solely mess with the brushstroke only. Once you do that, you also just want to make sure you have an image that you plan on using a lot, which is why you're making it into a brushstroke. So here I have this water drop, so I'm going to just make it larger so we could see it better. And typically you want to go with something that has like a solid background color, which is why like water splashes and droplets are the easiest to work with, or like smoke effects and stuff like that. But you want to get something that's pretty easy in terms of contrast to just take out of the area. So for this, I'm just going to invert the image, and then from there, actually before that, I'm going to create a solid color, and we'll just go with a dark gray. And I'm going to put this in the bottom to be in the background, and you'll see why I do that. I'm just going to use it for a visual example. So once you invert it, it's going to look like this. So you just double click on the layer, and then here in the blend if area, you're just going to move this white over, because what we want to do, whatever the color is, it doesn't always have to be white, but this is what's best for my process. So since majority is white and I just want to get most of this raindrop to be the only thing visible, I'm just going to drag this over a bit to get rid of the white, so just a little bit. And then whether you're on a PC or Mac, you just hit Alt or Option, hold it down, and then click to break that apart. And you just drag the left over, and you see it disappear slightly, just depending on how much you drag it over. So depending on how much you want included is just how much you drag over. So I'm just gonna leave it probably about here. And then once you're good, you just hit OK. So now you may or may not want the reflection in your brush stroke, so that's optional. But for me, I'm gonna get rid of it. So to do that, you could either just erase it or create a mask. So I'm just going to erase this. And I'm just gonna probably soften up the edges a bit. This is just, you could do it however you want. This is just a nice example. So once you do that, you just make it a smart object. Once you have your stroke, however your preferences, so convert to smart object, and then you want to make sure this is the only layer visible. So you would just make this color not visible, and then what you do is you go up to edit and then define brush preset. So then from here, you see the preview of what the stroke will look like. So even though like this has black and stuff in the actual image, when it's converted to a stroke, it's all gonna be just one monochromatic color. So it'll just be different shades of the same color basically. So you don't have to worry about that in here. So then you just rename it. So we'll go something like water drop for my awesome audience. Make sure to like and subscribe. Once you have the name to your liking, you just hit OK. And then I will create, actually I'll activate this gray again, and then I'll just get rid of that one. I'll just create a new layer for the brush stroke, and then you just hit B. So it's already automatically showing the brush I just made, but what you can do if it's not, so I'll just use this one for example. So if this is your standard brush, you just go up here to your brushes, and depending on how many brush files and everything you have, but when you make it, it'll be at the very bottom. So as you see, water drop for my awesome audience, make sure to like and subscribe. And then this is just one I was testing earlier. So you just click that, and here it is. This is the outcome of the stroke, and you can make it any sizes you want. And so yeah, so this is just all up for your imagination. So whatever brush stroke style you could think of, you can make it into a stroke and repurpose it for many different things, which is awesome. So then once you have your brush created, you just go back to your main composition that you're working on and select a brush, and then just start brushing in the areas you want for the water drops or whatever type of style and format you're using. As you can see, my brush has a pretty sharp edge line, so I just placed it everywhere first. And then after I got them in all the spots I wanted them, I just went back with the eraser and I softened the edges a bit so they could blend in better. Well, that's it for this video. I hope you all learned something and I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to leave a like and comment your thoughts below. And if you do plan on using any of these techniques for future designs, feel free to tag me on Instagram. I'd love to check it out and comment my thoughts. Until then, I hope you guys are doing well, and I'll see you in the next one.